Hello, everybody. Let's talk about this ice cream sundae exercise that we're going to take part in now. This is designed to test your pen tool skills. So you should have already done the 3 pen tool exercise worksheets and turned in all 3 to me on the Google Classroom. And I am looking to see that you know how to use this pen tool. But the other things that we are looking for in this project are going to be things like layers, organized your layers. The layers are also labeled. I am looking for if you use the pen tool correctly. I am looking for whether you created your document correctly. So I'm going to show you how to do all those things now. So let's get started. So this is the ice cream sundae JPEG. This is linked on the classroom for you. It's also on our class website under Graphic Design 1 in the Illustrator exercises page. You can also download the JPEG there as well. So I downloaded this JPEG from the Google Classroom first off, just so I have this JPEG on my desktop. The next thing, or in my documents folder or my downloads, whatever works for you. The next thing you want to do is open up Illustrator. Now, I'm a fan of opening my documents by sliding them right onto my dock where I have everything listed. Now, you can't see it right now because I have multiple screens open, but on a Mac, you have a dock, and on that dock, you could have whatever you want. And I have my Adobe programs there, so I can just slide this JPEG right onto that dock to open it. But instead of doing that, since a lot of you don't have Macs, I want to start a different way. I want to start by creating a new document so that we can make sure that we have the correct size and all of the correct details set up for our document. So the first thing you're going to do is say create new here. So I'm going to say create new, and it's going to bring up this pop-up window for Illustrator. Next thing you're going to do is on this pop-up window, you need to do some settings, okay? So first thing you want to do is label your document. So you're going to name it with your last name and your first name and sundae or ice cream, whatever works for you. Ice cream or sundae is fine with me, but as long as your full name is there, I'd like it to start with your last name. It's a good habit to be in. So things are in alphabetical order. Especially if we go back into the classroom. That's how I'm going to have us do it. So we have a name, and then we also have width and height. So because I would like to be printing these out on a regular size piece of paper, and when I say regular, I mean letter size, like the kind that is kind of default for most printers, we're going to say that this document is going to be 11.5 inches by 11 inches. So 8.5 inches by 11 inches, and you have to double, triple check that over here on the right that it says inches. If you accidentally forget and make it points or pixels, and you set it at 8, you will end up with the smallest, tiniest little ice cream sundae you've ever had. So make sure that it is 8.5 inches by 11 inches. Your orientation should default to portrait here. Your bleed and all of the different sides of the bleed should be 0. Don't need that right now. We will talk about that later. Your color mode, we are going to do this in CMYK color mode because, again, I would like to print these, and remember, CMYK is good for printing. Your raster effects, we are going to put it at 150 right now because of saving things on the internet and moving files around. It's a good N plus file size for your Chromebooks. It might help it to be a little bit smaller than I'd normally say. So we're going to go with a 150 ppi that's your raster effects. Not that we're going to be using them because we're working in vector here, but if you were to put any raster effects on the piece, they would be at 155 ppi. Preview mode, leave that as default. And more settings right here. You want to definitely click on this more settings button. That more settings button will bring up this pop-up window. And this is going to give you a chance to kind of double check your settings. So you can say, okay, here's what it's named. I have one artboard. That's what you need. One artboard. The size is letter, 8.5 by 11 inches. It's portrait style. There's no bleed. The color mode CMYK and my raster effects are 150. I'm good to go. I'm going to say create document. And this is what you should get. It's basically like a plain blank piece of paper. This is called your artboard. And if you look in your properties window over here on the right-hand side, you will see that for your artboard, properties for artboard, if it doesn't show, you can go to this black arrow, which is your selection arrow, and you can go to your properties tab here, and it will show you that your artboard is in inches and that you have one artboard. This is what you want to see to start off. If you don't see that, I'd suggest you just start over and set your settings and make sure you got the right thing. You can change it here in your units for inches here. Okay, let's get started. So the next thing I want to do is I want to pull that JPEG of the ice cream sundae onto the file. So I have mine on my desktop, so I'm just going to pull mine right here on top. That works just fine for me, and I'm just going to use my black arrow up here at the top, which is your selection tool. You can also push the letter V on your keyboard as a quick key to get to that tool. And that tool selects things, so it lets you move things around as well. And I want you to center your ice cream sundae on this piece of paper or artboard, and make it so that the word ice cream sundae is cut off at the bottom. So it's below the line of the artboard. But I want that cherry to be here so that you have a little bit of space above the cherry. So you're not going to scale this, meaning you're not taking the corner and you're not moving it smaller or anything like that. Leave it the full size. Just center it on the artboard. The next thing you want, well, not center, but align it on the artboard there. All right, so once you have your layers panel open, or layers window, some people call it panel, some people call it window, you want to start organizing your layers. That's the first thing you're going to do, because right now, if you were to start drawing on this layer, you might accidentally move this JPEG that you'll be tracing, and you will have it move all over on you, and it'll be a pain in the butt when you try to draw. So what we're going to first do here is we're going to double click on the word layer 1 and rename it and say template. Call that the template layer, okay? Then the next thing you want to do is you want to lock this layer. So next to the eyeball here, there's this blank box. You can click there, and that will automatically put a lock there. And now I can't do anything to this. You can see that it has a little no symbol next to any tool that I choose, because it's saying to me, no, you can't do anything here because this layer is locked. Now, you might be thinking, well, if it's locked, now how am I going to draw on it? How am I going to trace on it? So you have to give yourself a new layer. So it's very much the same as Photoshop. At the bottom of your layers panel, you'll see there's a plus down here, meaning create new layer. So I'm going to click on this plus and create a new layer. And technically throughout this piece, you're probably going to have something like 11 layers. Each layer will be labeled according to what the thing is that you are creating on this layer. So for example, this one, I'm going to say, maybe I will start with the scoop, the scoop of ice cream. I'm going to give myself another layer, and I'm going to say, okay, maybe this one is called the front bowl. And I'm going to do another layer, and this one, if you double click on it, you see what happens. It brings up the layer options, which is fine. You can name things here as well. You can also change the color that it's highlighted here, but I don't need that. So I'm just going to click on layer 4, and I'm going to name that back bowl. Now you could choose to name and give yourself layers as you go, or you could do it all ahead of time. So I'm just going to do some ahead of time here, and then I'll give myself the rest as I go. So I'm going to start with my scoop. So now that I've created multiple layers, I need to make sure that I'm on the right layer when I start working. So I'm going to click the scoop layer, and I'm going to click this circle right here. So that targets this layer and guarantees me that I am on this layer. Scoop. Now I want to do the same thing I did with my pen tool exercises. I'm going to grab my pen tool, which is the letter P, And I'm going to set over here my fill to nothing right now and my stroke to something that I can see while I'm drawing. I'm going to go back and change these colors later. But for now, that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to move this color window here to kind of snap it into place down here. So I always have it open. All right, so I've got a hot pink color and no fill and my pen tool, and I'm on the scoop layer right here. Here I go. I am going to do the scoop. Now, I could just draw the scoop like this because that's all I can see, but this is the part that's really going to force us to understand how the layers work and how building shapes and characters and all of those things, when you animate whatever in Illustrator, how they work when it comes to building things in layers. So we are going to imagine, we're going to use our imaginations, and we are going to imagine that this scoop is actually there. It's underneath everything. We can't see it, but it's actually a full circle, or really it's a sphere in real life, but we're just going to draw a circle. So I'm just going to make a big circle here. So this is exactly the same as it was in your pen tool exercises when you made a circle. So I'm remembering that I only had 4 anchors on that shape. It was top, bottom, right, and left, right? So I'm going to start where I think the top of the ice cream sundae might have started here. And I'm going to start by dropping an anchor and pulling a handle. I can always go back and change things. I'm just guessing here. I'm going over here on the right. I'm going to pull here. I'm going to try to line it up with this anchor here at the bottom where it might fall, somewhere like this. And then trying to line this one up as much as I can across from this one here. So again, here, pull and go back to the beginning and click and drag one more time just to even out those handles. Okay, so this is not a perfect circle, but this is fine for what we need it for because this part won't show. It will be behind the sauce, and this part will be behind the bowl. It's these edges that's really going to be the main part that shows, and I'm happy with this, so I'm good. So the next thing I want to do is I want to move on to the front of the bowl because I have that layer created here. Now, if I was to go ahead and just start going with the front of the bowl, both of these shapes would be on the scoop layer. I want to change my layers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock the scoop layer for now so I don't accidentally move it in the middle of doing all this stuff. And I'm actually going to turn off the eyeball for a minute just while I'm working on the other things so I don't get confused. Now I'm going to click on the front of the bowl. I'm going to target that layer and I'm going to start drawing the front of the bowl. Now I'm going to just skip all the way to the middle here because I think I can do this in 3 steps. And same thing with here. Now you might be watching me right now going like, huh? What about that part, Miss White? What about that part in the back? Or like, what about the part at the bottom? Here's where more of that stuff comes into play when it comes to building with your layers. This part of your bowl is in the front of the scoop. The other that part right there, and that part right back there is the back of the bowl. So I'm going to lock the front of the bowl and turn it off. And now I'm going to click the back of the bowl layer and target it and go back to my pen tool. And now I'm going to work on the back of the bowl. So the back of the bowl, I'm going to do the same thing I did with that scoop. I'm going to imagine, where does it go? It goes all the way behind here, back to here. So I'm going to guess around where the middle of the back of the bowl might be and bring it all the way over to here. And you can do this a couple of ways, whatever way you'd like to for scooping it down here. I'm going to take it all the way down here and try to match it up as best as I can with where the bottom of that front of the bowl goes. And there is the back of my bowl. So I'm good with that. I've completed it and I'm going to say lock and turn it off. Next thing I'm going to do is the sauce. I'm going to click plus. I'm going to call that sauce. Double click. I'm going to give myself another layer for the cherry. And I'm just going to go now, and you can just watch what I'm doing now. I'm going to go fast, okay? I am going to label this one stem of the bowl. I'm going to label this one base of the bowl. I need one for the mat or the doily. I'm going to call it mat. And I need one for the spoon. And I need one, oops, here, for the inside of the spoon. Okay, I've got all my layers, and I'm going to start going down the line, and I'm just going to start with my sauce. So pen tool, sauce, target. So this is just like what you were doing when you were doing your exercise with the pen tool here. Swoopy, swoopy, swoop. Now here is going to be tricky because it wants to bend this anchor the wrong way. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to fix that anchor later. Going through the cherry. And I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to fix this situation really quickly here. So I'm going to push Alt or Alt Shift, depending on which device I'm on. And I'm just going to shorten up this handle a little bit and shorten up this handle so that my curve is a little bit more gentle. And let go of Alt and Shift and I'm back to my pen tool. All right, done with that one, lock it. Moving on to turn off sauce, go to the cherry. Cherry, we're doing a little circle and it's going underneath here. Easy cherry, lock it, close it. Stem of the bowl, target it. And this is going to be a little sneaky. I'm going to pretend like this actually connects here. Even though that little line does not connect, I'm just going to pretend like it does. Make a little shape here and lock it. Oops. And turn it off. Base of the bowl. Start back here, another circle, oval. And there. Lock it, close it, go to the mat. Now, the mat is going to be a technique that you did like you did in the exercise with the pen tool exercise. This looks kind of like that bridge. So you're going to click, you can start anywhere, drag, and now I need to go back up. So I need to re-click that anchor, or I can swing this handle up. If I re-click the anchor, it breaks off that handle. And then I can go like this and click again, click that anchor. I can go like this. It does not guarantee me, though, that every single point is the same. I can also do the other way where I click like this and push Alt or Alt Shift if I'm on a Chromebook, swing this handle up and come down like this. So click again, sorry, click like that, click here, and now click Alt Shift, swing that handle up. Either one of those work. Honestly, I think just clicking the anchor works best here because it's faster and you're going to be making a lot of these little doohickeys. So I'm just going to keep going by clicking and breaking that handle off by going back and just clicking on that anchor. Click, drag, click, like that. And just work my way all the way around this shape. And remember, if you mess up, you can It might help to zoom in a little bit too. That way you make sure you don't miss those anchors, because that's what's happening to me is I'm missing the anchor when I go to click it. That's why it's doing that little swoop. You can see it gives you a little vision there of a little anchor moving tool when you click the anchor. Okay, and I am not skipping, so I need to keep going here. I'm just gonna make them a little bigger behind here because no one will probably, well, you might see them. If you make your bowl transparent, you might see that. Ooh, back to the beginning. And there we go with the mat, and I'm just gonna zoom in right here real quick, and I'm gonna push Alt or Alt Shift, and I'm just going to, there. I never let go of Alt during that whole thing I just did right there. So again, I just pushed Alt or Alt Shift, and I grabbed these handles and I just adjusted them. Or you can click on the anchor and you delete both handles. So if you need to get handles out of it again, you just click on the anchor and pull, and you can pull 2 brand new handles out of it and then adjust them. Okay, done with the mat. That's the most time consuming part. And then I'm going to lock that, turn that off, go to the spoon. Here we go. Target the spoon. I like to start on either the apex of a curve or where it like dips in any way. It makes it a little easier to, I think, pull the handles and move on from there if you work like that on those few spots. So there we go with the spoon. And then I need to do the inside of the spoon. So I'm going to lock the spoon here, turn it off, and then do the inside of the spoon here. This is just a big oval. Right there. And lock that, turn it off. Now I do realize that I did not get this shine right here. And I also didn't get this little moment right here where the sauce goes over the cherry. So I'm going to give myself 2 more layers here and call this one the shine and this one the, I don't know, I'm going to call it blob. And I'm going to use my pen tool on the shine here. Click this to target it. Go here. And now I need to break this handle right here in this moment. If I try to come over, it's going to scoop. So I need to break it there, the same way you did when you were doing the doily. I'm going to click on that anchor again to kind of give me a point. And now I can click on it there and give myself another point. Click and drag to make that curve right there. And again, click on this to break it and bring it over here. Now look at, I didn't line that up right. So I'm going to use my Alt or Alt Shift key to grab this. Oopsie. No, I'm not. I am going to use a different tool. I'm going to use Command, or if Command doesn't give you the white arrow, then you can just come up here and grab what's called the direct select arrow. And you can click on an anchor and then click again and drag it. The reason we click once first and then click and drag when we want to move an anchor after the fact is because if you try to grab right away with the anchor tool, with the select tool, you could end up grabbing all 4 anchors at a time, because you can see right now, you see how the anchor is filled in? It's a solid little block. All right. All 4 of them right now are filled in and solid. If I wanted to move them right now, if I clicked on this, I'd move all 4 because all 4 are selected. If I click on one and let go, you see what happens to the other 3? They are now hollow or empty, and only this one is selected. So I can move one at a time then. So that's what I wanted to do there. And I'm going to lock that and turn it off. And last is the blob. The blob is here. And I'm just going to, I mean this thing here that's covering up the cherry. So I'm going to use my ice cream, not my ice cream. I'm going to use my pen tool. I'm going to come here. I'm just going to kind of make this little lump of ice cream sauce. And I'm not going to connect it right now because I want this part right here to stay empty. I don't want there to be a fill in that area right now. But I do want to make sure that my 2 end points are lower than this middle point. And I'll tell you about that later. So right now, if you turn everything back on, if you turn on all your eyeballs now, you will see that you have all of your shapes here ready to go. All right. I'm going to do a separate video for the next part, which is going to talk about filling the shapes with colors and doing the fine touches. All right, now comes the fun part. Now you have all the layers done. They're all labeled and you have traced them all as shapes. And you can see now when you turn them all back on how they overlap. And this should help you to understand how to build in Illustrator with full shapes. That way, here comes the fun stuff, okay? I'm going to move my color back up here so it's right up here fresh for us to see. And I am now done with the pen tool for now. Why can't I see the cherry though, real quick? Oh, there it is. It's there. Okay, so I'm going to use now this black selection tool. This difference between the direct selection tool and the direct, or should I say here, the difference between the selection tool and the direct selection tool is that the direct selection tool will directly select an entire object, right? So you can click a full object. I'm going to unlock things here, except for the template. And you can see here, now you can select full objects. The direct select object you use for selecting an anchor point or a handle after the fact. Okay, so I'm going to use my selection tool right now, and I'm going to turn my template off so you can really see now. There's my full ice cream as it stands right now. And here comes the fun stuff. I get to start filling it in with colors now. So I'm going to just decide, I'm going to start with my ice cream scoop. So I'm going to select that path. I have to select it on the path itself. You can't just select it in the middle because it doesn't see that there is a middle. It thinks it's just a path. So select the path, and then I come over here, and I also can see it in my color palette. If you go to the window and you open up color, you can also see your fill and your stroke there. So the fill and the stroke here and the fill and the stroke here are the same. Or even if you go to properties and you look at fill and stroke, all three of these options will work in order to fill in or change the color of a stroke. All you have to do first is select the stroke or select the path that you actually want to affect. So I've selected the scoop, and I'm going to click on the fill here. I'm going to double click on it. It brings up my color picker. And I'm going to pick a color for my ice cream that's kind of like a minty color because I love mint chocolate chip ice cream. So I'm going to pick something like that for now. Now that's great, except for the fact that my stroke is still hot pink. And I don't want my ice cream to be hot pink on the outside edge, right? So I could do a couple of things here. I could say no stroke so that it's just plain and there's no stroke on it at all. And it's just plain like that. All right, so I have my fill right now as this minty color and my stroke as nothing because I don't want that stroke of hot pink there. So I can use this thingy here. It also flips them. I want to make sure that it's on my fill and not on my stroke. Okay, next shape. Moving on. I'm going to click on the sauce now. What kind of sauce do I want? I don't know. Maybe I want some kind of like purple sauce just to have fun with it. For some reason, it put this on my stroke, and I do know the reason. The reason is because the stroke was in front of the fill. So if that happens to you and you're like, how come it's not working? It's only putting it on the stroke and not the fill. It's because the stroke is in front of the fill. It only puts it on whatever's in front. So I can flip it here with this little arrow and then put the fill on the there with the purple. I can click on the fill now here, bring it to the forefront of these two boxes. And now next time I add a color, it'll go to the fill. But I don't want a stroke there. So we're good. So we have purple sauce on mint chocolate chip ice cream right now. I don't have chocolate chips in there yet, but maybe I'll put them in there later. Now I'm going to go to the front of the bowl. Now, if this happens and you're like, I want to click the front of the bowl, but it keeps clicking on the scoop, all you have to do is go into your layers, lock your scoop. Boom. Now you can click on it and it won't click the scoop. It'll only click the other thing. So I'm going to click the front of the bowl and I'm going to give that, I want to do kind of like a glass color, but I'm going to play with the opacity of it here so that it's kind of see-through. So you can kind of see through to the ice cream back there. And I have to do that to the back of the bowl as well. So I'm going to click the back of the bowl. I'm going to lock the front of the bowl, by the way. Click the back of the bowl. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use the previous last color that I used, which it shows you down here. So I'm going to click that to use the last color. I do not want a stroke of hot pink. So I'm going to put none on the stroke. Leave the fill that blue color, change the opacity of it a little. I want it to be a little darker than the front of the bowl was. Now, you're going to start to see that we have a problem here because now the back of the bowl is in front of the scoop of ice cream. So at this point, we need to start making some changes with the layer order, okay? So my scoop needs to be in between the front and the back of the bowl. So I'm going to unlock them real quick and I'm going to slide this layer, the scoop layer, by clicking it, and I'm just going to drag it in between these two layers. And I'm going to put the back of the bowl below it and the front of the bowl above it. That way, whatever's on top is the closest thing to me. Whatever's on the bottom is the furthest away from me. And now you can see when you look at this, it goes front of the bowl, then there's the scoop, and then there's the back. And I'm actually going to even click this front of the bowl here where I can target it by clicking it with my selection tool, or I can target it by clicking it on the layer here. And I'm going to actually make that even more or even less opaque so that you can really see through it to the scoop. So now you can see it. Now there's a misalignment right there, and I'm going to fix that later. Let's keep going. We've got the sauce is good. Cherry, I'm going to click on the cherry layer here, target it, or I can just click on the cherry path. Either way, I'm going to keep this cherry a bright red kind of color and full opacity. And moving on, lock and click on the stem of the bowl here. So the stem of the bowl, I want to make this thing here. I want to make it similar color to the actual body of the bowl. This would be a good opportunity to show you what's called swatches. Swatches, you can go to Window and open up Swatches. And you have all these swatches of color here. And what I can do is I can go through with my eyedropper tool and I can click any color I already have in my piece. So I'm going to say, click this purple. And you see it shows it in your swatches. And I'm going to pull this box down. I'll put it right here. I can pull it there. And now I have saved that color purple. So now I'm going to click on this blue of the glass bowl. And I'm going to pull this down and save that color. And I'm going to click on the ice cream color and pull that down. And I'm going to click on the cherry color and pull that down. Now I've got these colors saved, almost like making my own color palette here of my swatches. And I'm going to just pull that down below the color so it sticks there. And now, again, I've clicked the bottom of the bowl or the stem of the bowl, and I want to use that color right there that's the same. And I want it to have no stroke. And I'm going to put that back in front there. And I think I do want to change the opacity of it a little bit. And moving on, and I want to click the base of the bowl, and I want that to also match. So I'm putting that with this color here, changing the opacity a little bit. And you'll see that's in the wrong order, right? And it has a stroke, so no stroke. And wrong order. So I'm going to pull the base of the bowl. I'm going to pull that way down here below the back of the bowl because that's the very back of it. And the stem of the bowl right above that. So the stem of the bowl is behind the bowl itself. Then it goes stem. Then it goes base. So in the right order there. And it's starting to look cool. Now I want to do this mat. And I'm going to lock these other things so I don't mess them up. And the mat, I'm going to do some kind of crazy chartreuse color for the mat. Whoa, that's intense. Maybe I do. Yeah, I'm going to do chartreuse color. I like it. I am going to move that, definitely move that to the back. I need to move that all the way back here behind everything. And you can see it through the bowl a little bit because I made that bowl opacity. I took it down a notch. So now you can see this doily and it's behind everything there by dragging that layer down, locking it. Now I'm going to do the spoon. So I'm going to click on this layer to target it. And I'm going to fill the spoon in with a color. Let's see. Let's pick. I think I might do some kind of a gray. Yeah, I'm going to do gray color. And then that's 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth gray color over. I'm going to lock that. And now the inside of the spoon, I'd like to do a little darker. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to go one more. Maybe I'll go two more for the inside of the spoon. And again, I don't want a stroke. I do not want the stroke on the outside of the spoon either. So I'm going to unlock that and click it and go back and take that stroke off. And now we're starting to look good. And I just realized I want to take the stroke off the mat as well. Click on the mat, bring the stroke to the forefront, say no, and then put it back on the fill. And now we're starting to look good. I also see, it looks like I have a stroke on the front of the bowl still. Don't know how that happened because I thought I took that off, but there we go. No. There we go. And lock. Okay, now we are on to the shine. Click on the shine here. Definitely want to get rid of the pink of the shine. And now the shine itself, I want it to be almost like white, maybe a little bit blue here. So I can bring a little blue in with my color. Ooh, that's too much blue. Like that. So it looks like it's shining with no stroke. I'm good with that. Lock it. And last but not least is this blob. Now you'll notice the blob, it should be covering this cherry, and it will because it's on top of everything. It's in the front of everything. So I'm going to get the blob, and I want to get that same color as the sauce. So I click that purple that I had already put in my swatches earlier, and you see what happened? Because I did not finish this shape, if I was to change the color, you can see it very clearly what it did. It jumped from this anchor to this anchor because it's trying to make a full shape. So it jumped without making a stroke on it. Now, it doesn't really matter because we're not putting any stroke on this at all. But I wanted you to see what would happen if you made a shape with no completion to the shape. This is what happens, which works for us here, but in all cases does not always work, depending on what you need. So that's why we always complete our shapes and we build just like we just did right now. So if you look at this, you can see everything is a shape, a full shape. And there you go. Now, if you want to be crazy and you want to do all kinds of extra stuff, I say go for it. If you want to add extra lines, if you turn the template back on, you'll notice that there actually are some lines here, like these little extra lines. You can create a separate layer and add these little lines by themselves. So, like for example, here I turn these back on. I'm going to add an extra layer and just say details. And I can come in here with the pen tool. I'm going to make sure I lock everything else out so I don't accidentally move it. And I'm going to pick a color. I'll pick black for now just so you can really see. And, escape. But look, it's filling. We want this to be on the stroke, so we need to flip these two. So I'm going to do that here because I have this little arrow to just flip them. And then I'm going to go to my properties and I'm going to up my stroke a little bit. And if you even want to get even more cool, you can make these two things into points. There's multiple ways to do that, but one of the easy ways to do it is use your selection tool, click on the stroke, and you can see up here where it says uniform. If you don't see this bar at the top, okay, you want to make sure that, where do you bring that to the front? There is a Here, you want to go under window and you want to make sure control bar is clicked. That will have this bar at the top. So if you select a stroke and you click on uniform, you can click any one of these pre-done kind of like profiles for you, and you can click that one and you can see now what it does is it points both of the ends, which is a little bit more on the natural side for what you're doing here. So again, I'm going to pen tool, black stroke with no fill. And I'm going to push escape. I'm going to up the stroke of that. and I need to see how it doesn't show up here right now. I'm going to click on the selection tool to select that stroke, and now I can pick this uniform option. So you can go through and do that. You can bring some highlights in here. I'm going to go in here real quick, go to my layers, and I want to fix the bottom of the bowl here, the back of the bowl. I want to fix that line and have it come out to the same edge as the front of the bowl. So I'm using my white arrow. I'm going to click on the anchors in order to bring these handles, alive. Hello, give me the handle. Really? Let me pull the handle. There we go. And try to match that up a little better. This one just a little bit too. There we go. That's much better. Still not perfect, but much better. And have fun with this. Once you're done, here we go with the save settings. You are going to say File, Save As. It needs to be Save As because I need to see your Illustrator file because I need to see your layers. I want to see that they're labeled. I want to see that they're in the right order. And I want to see that you've done everything on a different layer, because if you've done things on the same layer, you can't label them all the same way and all that good stuff. So I want to make sure that you've done that. So name it. It should already be named, and make sure that the format is AI file and say save. And then just say okay here. And then you're going to upload that AI file to the Google Classroom assignment. I know that was a lot. I have one more thing to add, and that is that just occurred to me is that if you accidentally put something in the wrong layer, here's what you can do. Let's just say that I accidentally made the cherry and it was in the sauce layer. You can see how easily I put it in there. It's just as easy to pull it out. I'm going to grab the cherry and pull it out so it becomes its own layer. Watch this staggering system that they have. Make sure that everything is on the same line. If something is staggered in, that means it's inside of another layer and you need to pull it out. All right, good luck. Have fun. I know this is long, but it's all here for you. Goodbye, and I will see you guys next week.